This is my Fujifilm Sp500 film scanner. Owning this scanner has been an absolute dream come true, and today I want to talk about why I bought it, what it works well for, and we're going to scan some rolls on it so you can see how this 20-year-old film scanner works and why it's so good at scanning 35mm film. So what exactly is this thing? This is a Fujifilm Sp500. It's a dedicated 35mm film scanner, so it only does 35mm film. These scanners specifically are incredibly quick, they have amazing resolution, and most importantly, the color out of these scanners right off the bat is absolutely beautiful. There's something about the software in this scanner that just understands film really well. It's super easy to use, it's all automated, it works pretty quickly given that it's 20 years old, and the scans that come out of it are just incredible. I bought this scanner because of how much 35mm film I've been shooting recently, as opposed to in previous years when I was shooting almost exclusively medium format, and 35mm presents a whole different set of challenges when it comes to scanning because the negative is smaller and you tend to have a ton more frames. With the medium format, I wasn't shooting that many photos, so I would usually darkroom print all of my images, and that was a really good workflow. But with 35mm, I'm just shooting too much to be using that setup all the time. And I think this is as close as I can get color-wise to the darkroom without spending a fortune and months of my life at a time processing my film. That doesn't mean I'm done with darkroom printing. I think when it comes to a final project, that's still where the darkroom comes in and is maybe superior to this, but when it comes to speed and processing things efficiently as I'm shooting them, this has definitely been a game changer for me. Let me get the thing out of the way that I know everybody's wondering about, which is the price of this thing. This is usually something that is purchased by a film lab that's processing a ton of film. Because of the price, these are very expensive scanners. I paid about $4,000 for this one here. That being said, from a financial perspective, with the price of lab scans accounted for, which at my local lab is like $13 a roll, I shoot probably 30 rolls a month on average between jobs and personal work. That means this scanner will easily pay for itself within a year. The amount of money I would have spent on lab scans in a year is what this scanner cost me. And that's not considering the fact that after that year of using this, I still have a $4,000 scanner that I could easily go and sell to recover my money. So that's how I'm justifying this very expensive purchase to myself. This here is the scanner itself, and as you can see, it's actually quite small as far as these like dedicated film scanners go, especially considering the bigger version of this, which does medium format, is a full-sized desk. So I would say this is pretty compact for what it is. The only real feature on here is this removable negative carrier, which is quite a cool piece. It pulls out just like this, and this is where your film actually gets fed into. In the back here is where it spools up when it takes up the roll, and then in here there's a mirror with some infrared sensors for removing dust. There's a magnetic tray that actually clamps down your film when you scan it so that it's nice and flat when it's doing the scan, and then just a bunch of rollers to move the film around. Quite a crazy piece. And then, as you've probably all noticed, I'm missing this front cover here, which is really not that important because it's only a cosmetic piece. But I've been working on 3D printing a little replacement one here, although it's not quite there yet. I need to paint this, obviously, and I need to change the design a little bit more, but hopefully that'll be done soon. And I think pretty much every single one of these is missing this front cover as far as I can tell online. Old plastic breaks quite easily, so I'm sure all these little tabs just get broken off. I'm going to get into setting this thing up on my desk now, and we'll run some rolls through this thing so you can see what it's like to scan on a Fuji Sp500. So the software is loaded on my old MacBook Air. It's running on Windows XP and it works surprisingly well. The only other thing I haven't shown yet is this keyboard, which is a Smart Convert keyboard by Filmomat. I think this is made for DSLR scanning. It's really just a custom keyboard and you can set these keys to do anything. So I've mapped them to be the corresponding functions in the software, which are the different color inputs, the contrast, things of that nature. So what we'll do here is put in a roll of film. This is a roll I shot at a racetrack last week, and I'll show you how this works. You just feed it in the front. And what the scanner is going to do now is make an initial preview scan of all 36 photos. At that point, they'll show up in the software. We'll color correct them one by one, and then it's slowly going to go through them and make full resolution scans of all of the images. So here's what we're working with. You see the image preview here, and other than that, you have contrast adjustments. I usually set mine to shadow hard, which is one of the more contrasty settings, and I just tend to leave it there. I think that one looks best for the way I like my film. And then we can go and correct this. The scanner automatically pulls up a kind of neutral preview here. It doesn't necessarily know that this was a bright, warm sunset scene, so my job is to try and bring it back to as close as a lifelike image as I can, which should be a lot warmer and should have that sunset feel in it. So I'm going to use the buttons on the keyboard here to add some warmth. I'm going to add some magenta, and that's already looking so much better. It looks maybe a little bit too bright, so I'm going to add a point of density, which brings the shadows a little deeper, brings down the highlights, and that looks pretty good. It doesn't take a ton of work, but as you can see, it looks so much more natural now. It looks like the warm sunset scene that it actually was. I'm going to put both images up on the screen here. As you can see, one is the way it comes straight out of the scanner and the other is the way that I adjusted it. I think it looks much more natural with the warm sunset light added back in. And this is kind of your job here. This is where you can see that there's a lot of creative input here as far as color correcting the image. This really is like the first edit of your photo. You can also hold your settings so that they transfer onto the next images, and at that point you can move through the photos really quickly. This one I like a lot, beautiful light coming through there. This image is great as well, and something I want to kind of demonstrate is just how many different directions you can take an image here creatively. So we can do a scan like this that looks on the warmer side, I would say, but we can also do scans that are, for example, cooler and more neutral. Now it looks like winter all of a sudden. So there really is a lot of creative input that you can have here. Let me make a couple different versions of this and then you can see just how much you can do in this software. This looks great as well. I love the light that was here. This family was super fun as well to talk to. And once you get your settings dialed in, as long as the scene was similar, the light was similar, you can really move through them pretty quickly. There's a lot of creative input that happens here, and it really is like editing your film. This is why there really is no such thing as unedited film. The only thing that's unedited is this actual negative, and everything else is an interpretation of it by the software, by the person who's scanning it. This is a fun portrait too. This is sort of the first photo approaching somebody asking for a picture, and he's throwing up peace signs, which isn't necessarily what I'm looking for. But then after a while, you notice somebody's gesture, you can ask them to repeat something like that, and that was the case with this. I saw him adjusting his hat before he took the first photo, and I just asked him to do that again a couple times, and that's how I got this one, which I think looks much better. I really like this photo. There's actually two that are both cool, but when I'm not talking through the whole process like this, you can actually do a roll pretty quickly. and the processing of the film is usually pretty good at keeping up with the rate that you edit them at. This is at the highest resolution. You can also skip photos that are maybe bad that you don't like. This one's kind of interesting. This was a really dark evening scene, but the scanner brings it back up to this kind of brighter neutral. So we got to bring that evening feel back into this image. You can see there was lights on the trailer. That was the main light source here. And whether it's better or not than the initial preview, I think it is more lifelike, and that's what I'm looking for here. So that looks a lot different than the initial preview scan. And that's the end of the roll. Easily one of the highlights about this scanner, and maybe this is because of the fact that it's dedicated to 35mm, is the fact that the sharpness is just absolutely perfect. It's not overly sharp. It doesn't have any digital noise. It has just super natural grain, and it looks incredible. It's really the way that it was meant to look, in my opinion. It's not like overly textured. It looks natural. There's a ton of detail, and that's really one of my favorite parts about the scanner. But I'll put some more of the images up on the screen here, and you can judge for yourself if you like the way the SP500 looks. Anyway, that's my SP500. I've been super happy with it, and I think at the moment it's just the best setup for my workflow with 35mm film. Before I wrap up this video, I want to give a massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this channel. Squarespace is an incredible all-in-one website building platform that you can use to build your photography portfolio online. I've been using Squarespace for so many years at this point, and they've made it so easy to get a website up and running with my photography. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can hit the link in my description for a 14-day free trial of Squarespace, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Willem for 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.